Mike and Mind podcast. What an exciting day. What an exciting day. I'm Hudson Hot. My partner, Scotty Blaisdell, our resident therapist, Alan Wagner, LMFT, and our special guest, Katie Enright. Oh my gosh, Katie, I feel like I've known you for so many years, but here we are. My partner, Scotty, has no idea what this podcast is about today,
Right. You kind of gave me a clue that I would not know about this, and
right?
you purposefully kept information away from me until today.
I did.
So, am I supposed to guess what Katie does?
Yes, I
Okay, give
thought
me
this.
three guesses based on, let me just look
I'm
at
going
her.
to
Okay,
just by looking at Katie,
yes.
three
Okay.
guesses of why Katie is here today and what she does.
Guess number one, she has something to do with a makeup brand, some sort of beauty thing.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
No.
not right? Okay. Okay. Katie is the voice behind some famous character in an animated show, and we would never
Ooh,
know by until we see her.
that's a real Katie. Isn't that a good guess?
That's a really good one.
Have you ever gotten anything like that before?
No, not at all.
Mike in mind. Scotty, that is a negatory. Good
Okay,
buddy.
last.
Let's go. Round three. This
La
is it. Three
All right,
strikes
yeah,
out.
let's jump in.
okay, she loved the aesthetic of trash dumpsters so much. She's the actual designer of Elon Musk's Cybertruck.
Uh, Another crazy good guess, Scotty. Wow.
Is
Left
that it?
field.
Okay.
Bingo. You got
Yeah, nailed it, Scotty.
Okay.
Absolutely nailed it. No, there is a company. And I want to make sure I'm saying it right. It's Lavinia, correct?
correct.
That's the name of your company. Katie owns a company. And I found out about Katie and her company through a very good friend of mine who's a celebrity. I'm going to leave it at that, who is obsessed with a product that Katie, I guess, did you invent this?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to get into all of this. And
Okay.
it is a must have for this celebrity. When I tell you, I've has spent many nights on the telephone talking about it, hearing about it, and what it is a lube, like a sexual lube. And I thought Katie would be so great. I know you're okay, but
Okay.
hold on. You both have a lot in common here, which I'm going to get to in a minute. But I believe that because this podcast is Mike in Mind, and we dissect things and talk about how things relate to mental health. And this, I believe, is one of the best things for women's mental health. Am I right, Katie?
Absolutely.
Okay, we got to talk about your products because, again, my friends are beyond obsessed. And I know everything there is. I know about all your products.
Okay. Now, having no knowledge whatsoever, I will
Yeah.
ask some very obvious questions like, why is your lube so different?
Why is your loop so different? So strap in, Scotty. Strap in, strap on, whatever. This is going to be the one episode where anything goes. So we use silicone as our base and we infuse it with cannabis, so THC and CBD.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So my next question then is because you said THC, not just CBD.
Yeah.
Is THC legal? It's not legal everywhere, right?
So we are only allowed to sell in dispensaries in the state of California currently because
Yes.
we don't have a hemp line yet, but we are working on a hemp line so we can distribute everywhere.
And I will tell you this, like when I was telling you, my friend is obsessed. For example, I was doing my show, right? I'm at Alt 98.7, and she was getting ready to go off and do a shoot for a very long time. Didn't have time. Tried to get one of those delivery. They could get like Weed Maps. Weed Maps does deliveries, Scotty, in Los Angeles for weed and stuff. And by the way, she doesn't do any weed. She doesn't smoke weed, never has. That's not her bag. But this has enhanced her sex life with her husband, and it has brought them so much closer. Like she will buy five at a time, and it's a little bit. It lasts a long time. Like you need like a drop of this. Is that what you need? Like a drop?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
maybe explain to Scotty, maybe explain to Alan, our therapist here, going to be thinking about this for his couple sessions. How does it work?
Yeah.
Somebody
So
about this.
yeah. So basically, you know, when you smoke weed and your eyes turn red?
Yeah,
I
Scotty,
mean,
no. Yes.
No,
okay.
but go ahead. I'll
So
accept
your
your
eyes
premise.
turn red, and what's happening is the actual size of the blood vessels are increasing, which causes the blood flow to increase. So when you apply a cannabis lubricant topically below the belt, that's exactly what it does is it causes all the blood flow to go in that area, which increased blood flow is increased climax.
Right. I mean, for women to be able, okay, first of all, I know many women who really have never had an orgasm. Okay. I mean, honestly, like women will talk about things and sometimes they're open and it'll finally come out like, is that what I had? Is this what it's supposed to feel like? So there are many women who might be listening to this right now who might have weak ones, might not really have them all the time. And from my understanding, this is a game changer, a game changer. But here's what I want to know, all right? For somebody who doesn't smoke marijuana, like my friend, right? Doesn't do any of that, but loves this. How did you get involved? Like, how did you invent this and come up with this? Were you a big weed smoker? Like, what? How did this all start? I want to know
This is kind
everything.
of okay. This is kind of the craziest story of all time. I actually studied theology in school, and I did a discernment to decide if I wanted to become a nun. And I moved to Ireland to do that. I know, which is such a crazy. I feel like I'm still doing
Wow.
God's just in a slightly different way. And so I met a Belgium knight named Francois, and I was like, wait a second, I was unaware that Belgium knights named Francois existed. And I was like, maybe I don't want to be a nun. And so I came back to the States. I was always really athletic. I was always, in college was a runner and I ran 2 marathons. And my first marathon, I injured myself really badly. I had lower back pain, knee pain, all the pain. And so when I decided to run my second marathon 10 years later, I decided that I was going to start to incorporate recovery in my training. And one of the things that I touched upon was cannabis. And I found a cannabis balm and I used it on my back, and instantaneously my pain was gone. And I was like, what is this? Because again, I had one experience. I did 6 hits on a volcano and I couldn't move my arms. And I was like, this is miserable. Why would anyone ever do this? And so I just wasn't from there. I wasn't anti cannabis, but I just never became a cannabis consumer. And so, yeah, I started to do a ton of research because I was like, wait a second, what was this? Why did this work so well? I was completely pain-free in minutes. And then I started to research that cannabis is a vasodilator, which essentially means exactly what I was saying, where it increases blood flow. It increases the size of the blood vessels and in blood flow. And then I read that you could use it as a lube. And I was like, what? I was like, that sounds so crazy, but I'm interested. And so I went to a dispensary that day after I read that blog post just to be a consumer. I wanted to buy the lube. And they were like, oh, well, you could probably use this tincture that had like grapefruit essential oils and was coconut oil based. You could probably use that as a lube. And I was like, no, coconut oil isn't a good lubricant. It can cause yeast infections. And grapeseed, no, like that's no, no, no.
Yeah, it
Um,
doesn't sound like anything you want to be putting down there. Sorry, guys.
yeah, sorry that but so then I went to 3 different dispensaries and I couldn't find anything. And so I just started making it in my kitchen for myself. And cannabis like coconut oil emulsifies really easily in cannabis. They go really well together, but coconut oil, as I said before, isn't a good lubricant. So I switched over to silicone as my base. And so I started mixing up a silicone lube in my kitchen, literally because I couldn't find it at any dispensaries. And so I was bartending at the time and I was like giving free samples to all of my, fellow coworkers, any of my regulars. I'd be like, you get a great orgasm. You get a great orgasm. You get a great orgasm. I was like the Oprah Winfrey of orgasms,
I love
giving
this.
them
Okay.
away.
Now, let me just throw this back to you guys, and you'll hear an interesting story. Alan, you might know this, Scotty, you don't. But I'm wondering if it was actually your product that somebody was passing out to try. One of my friends met this individual, and we call him Patrick, the Craigslist narcoleptic lube dealer. And I'm going to tell you why. He had these little samples of this THC lube. This is before your product was actually physically launched. I'm wondering, it was just a little sample, but said, listen, and this is how he was meeting women, I guess, on Craigslist, because that's how my friend met him. Okay. You know what I'm talking about. Am I right, Alan?
Yes.
Okay. That could have your little samples, but that was how he was pitching to women once the conversation started going. He's got this amazing sample of THC lube. Probably you've never heard about it, okay? But he had it, and that's how they'll start. So that is why we call him that. And whatever happened, and then I had heard about your product, and then my friend who's obsessed with it, and so I wonder if that was yours. Could it have been?
That is hilarious because literally, so how I decided to start the company is I was opening up for the bar one day and some guy walked in and he said, "Hey, are you the weed lube girl?" And I was like, I guess I am. Yeah. And he's like, "Can I get some of that from you? I'll totally buy it." And as soon as he said the word buy, I was like, wait a second. If I went to three different dispensaries to try to buy this product, a random stranger is walking into a random bar, talking to a random girl, asking if she's the weed lube girl because he wants some of it. I was like, this is a company. There needs to be like a sexual health and wellness cannabis company. And other brands kind of have like one-offs where they have like one product or two products, but like that's the sole focus of our company is sexual health and wellness. But that is
Okay.
hilarious. That might
Yeah,
actually be.
it might have actually been that guy.
No, like honestly, like I'm gonna have to find out because this is our 3 degrees of separation, Katie. This podcast was you are supposed to be honest. Scotty, what were you gonna ask her?
I was just going to say, I always think about there was a comedian who did a bit about who was the first guy to ever drink milk. And, like seeing a cow and thinking, I want to drink what can't comes from that. It's an odd leap.
Yeah.
And I just, as you're a person who's going into a new area, I assume there was some trial and error. There was I'm going to take a chance here. Did you have friends who agreed to do it? Was it all you? How did this process of testing get started?
That's hilarious. So, I am very thorough, and I tried every different iteration you could possibly think of a cannabis lubricant. So, I added peppermint oil because I saw another brand had some essential oils, and it feels really good when you put it on. For a minute and then it's burning after a minute and it's like get it off me. We also tried nanotechnology, which essentially means that it works faster, but the taste is so bad that if you consume it orally, you have to brush your teeth after, and you probably don't want to continue your sexual experience because it tastes so bad.
Yeah.
So yes, I literally tried everything. We tried different formulations too, because I just really wanted the product to work. And actually, there's a vibrator that's called the Lioness that has sensors on the side that records the pulsing of the vaginal walls during a sexual experience. And that was key for us in helping with our formulation because we actually then had like a graph and scientific data to say like, oh, this sexual experience was better than this one, and which to kind of dial in the ratio of how much THC and CBD we wanted to add to it. So it's kind
That
of fun.
Alan's like so interested. Okay, Alan.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
Katie, it's a pleasure to meet you. And I'm a couples counselor and I do a lot of relationship work. And a lot of my individual clients are women. And I actually have mentioned your product because, I'm licensed in California and it is legal in California. And it is different than just people hear cannabis or marijuana and they have their own impressions, but sexual well-being is a big part of any relationship. And that's a problem that actually drives people into couples counseling sometimes is a lack of intimacy. And a lot of people, unfortunately, women I've met have never had a real orgasm. And so I think what you're doing is interesting and I think it's amazing and it's definitely helping a lot of women. But I also think when you were just talking about that, I didn't know about what you were saying about the vibrator and the data that it was giving off from a scientific perspective. And so you could actually quantify the data to show that this product actually works. And I think that's incredible.
Can I pull up the graph right now? Is that okay? Is that
Yeah.
allowed?
Yeah.
Um,
Can you pull it up?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because a sexual experience too is really hard to quantify. It's really hard to say this one was so much better than this one because there's so many different factors that are at play. Your dog can bark at just the moment of climax, and your climax can be gone forever. So it's kind of interesting because what's great about this product is that it's going to increase your blood flow. So for me, it allows me to relax and get out of my head and to be able to really like just enjoy the moment. So this was taken from, again, the vibrator. And so the green is with an unmedicated lubricant, just a plain old water-based lubricant. And then the red is the Ojai cannabis lube. So you can see
Wow,
it
that's off the
intensifies
charts.
everything. Yeah, literally, it's off the charts.
It is.
So, just since we're in this area, I'm going to keep following up with thoughts that come to my mind.
I love
How
this.
does this affect the dude?
Mhm.
So,
Ooh, good
it's
question.
it's really funny because initially, the mucous membranes absorb it. So initially, we didn't really think that there was any effect for the male partner. We thought, it's just the woman is having such a heightened experience, which makes the man enjoy it a lot more too. We joke that you become a legend in bed, but
What
what
if
we
you already
realized,
are?
No, Scotty's
I
like,
was, as I said it, I was like,
Sorry.
um, but what we realized though is because the pulsing of the vaginal walls are so much more intense, that actually feels really good for the male partner as well. So we realized that there is actually an effect. And then also we have another product called a lube launcher. So Oh Hi is the lubricant, and then we have Oh Hello, which is a lube launcher, and that can be used for vaginal or anal use. And that one, if you use it anally, it's really cool because if the cannabis absorbs the portal, like if the portal nerve absorbs the cannabis, it gives you this really amazing psychoactive head high, where it almost feels like a cross of Molly and ecstasy, where like literally every single hair on your, it stands up, where you can just feel everything. It's really cool. And then you can use it so it's designed for anal sex. We really needed an apparatus to get the cannabis lubricant where it needs to go because there is a 15-minute to half-hour onset time. So that's kind of why we designed it. Everything that we use is medical grade. But yeah, it's really fun if you do use it anally and you do get a little bit of a head high. It's a really amazing experience.
No, I was going to ask you actually about that. Just like, is there a time a person has to wait, before it's kind of sets in? But also, it does sound, I know for women, it is something that it does help a lot. And I've heard really good feedback on your products from clients as well as other people we know. So it's definitely an honor to meet you. And I think what you're doing is great for women and great for relationships.
it is great for
Is there,
relationship
is
and
there
for
a, Oh, in all honesty, 100%. I think that is something that people really struggle with, and it's hard to talk about. And to know that there's a solution where they can go into a dispensary in Los Angeles and pick this product up and actually have that heightened experience. And like what you said, it makes every man feel like he's the super lover or whatever you call it. Because, there is something on a confidence level from a man. If a woman doesn't have an orgasm or she doesn't have that type of experience, it does affect him. And so I'm glad this exists. Do you also make products for men?
So all of our products are, when I initially launched the lube, it was kind of female focused, but that was only really my main female focused product, because then for the launchers, for example, I really thought we need to incorporate men, and so that's kind of was designed. And then I was like, well, wait, women can use it too. So kind of all of the products now that we have are designed for both men and women.
Mhm.
and you
So,
just came out with something. I'm sorry, Scotty, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, when you do launch a product, before you release it, is there some sort of official testing or approval it has to get from, I don't know, it's the FDA or whoever it
Oh,
is?
so we're a cannabis brand. So unfortunately, the FDA doesn't recognize us. We have what's called the DCC, which is the Department of Cannabis Control in California, and so they're very, very thorough. We use all medical grade silicone for our lubricant. They come in and they test the facilities to make sure that it's completely compliant. We go through and like, for example, the cannabis that we use essentially goes through 3 rounds of testing before the consumer can purchase the product. So the cannabis is tested to make sure that the purity level is in the 90s. And then we have to, again, test when we mix the batch, we do a testing of it. And then when we package it, we test it again. So when you actually are, as a consumer, purchasing a product, anything that you consume that's cannabis based has gone through rigorous amounts of testing if you're buying it in a legal dispensary.
Mhm.
And follow-up question. Okay. I am really ignorant when it comes to all this stuff. So I know there's THC and there's CBD, and my understanding is THC is the one that really affects you, and CBD has other, you know,
Pain.
whatever it is, has different effects. So does it only work with THC, or does CBD also give that effect? And could you then maybe release that more nationally?
Yeah, so it's basically hemp, and the definition of it is it has to be less than 0.03% of THC, or I'm sorry, 0.3% THC in the product, and that's why it's considered hemp. They're basically the same plant, but it just has to do with how much THC is in it. And yeah, so that's kind of the differentiation between that.
I was going to say,
It would be so great if you could get this in. Sorry, Alan. This would be so great if you could make this available everywhere. Because honestly, even like just when I tell you, like people who don't smoke weed or anything, who have no interest, I'm telling you something. This is a game changer for you, and it will really increase your sex drive and just make you and your partner closer. Go ahead, Alan.
I was just going to say that we're seeing a real change in the attitudes, I think, of Americans regarding cannabis in general. I mean, I know that it's still federally classified in a certain way, but I'm seeing that almost every state is making adjustments and having votes on it and legalizing it, or at least for medical reasons. So it
Right.
is something that I think, I mean, I can even, without outing anybody, right, I know that my mom, when she was dealing with pain and things from chemo, it was actually really helpful. It was suggested to her by a doctor. And so she was taking cannabis as well for pain and for, and not just CBD, but also the THC to sleep.
Yeah.
So I think the people in the past, like, my mom would have been the person who would have
Oh.
flipped out over marijuana, when I was a kid. And here she is going into dispensaries and asking me the difference between indica and sativa. And so I think it is much more mainstream. And even here in North Carolina, they
Oh,
have
it's
something here
so.
called THCA, and they have
Mhm.
Delta 9, I think it's called. And so it's not legal here, but it's pretty much on the verge of it. And I think we probably will see. I heard rumors even at the end of this year that it might just be legalized nationally, that might be coming in November. But that said, because it's becoming such a cultural phenomenon in a sense that it's not taboo anymore, and I think for people listening to this, maybe the attitudes have changed nationally. Can you say more about the man's experience? Because you mentioned in oral sex that, so if a woman is using that and she has that expanded blood flow and it's going to increase her climax, and you were saying that initially it didn't fully work on the men, or you didn't think so, but if he was to consume it, you said that one didn't have a good taste to it that required teeth brushing. So you fixed that now. And does that actually increase in relationships, oral sex, which I know is something that I hear a lot of complaints about?
So to the taste really bad was when we used nanotechnology when we were doing R&D, and so that's why we didn't pursue nano, because the technology just isn't advanced enough to. I don't know if you've ever had like a nano gummy that kind of has that a little bit of a funky taste to it, and that's just the chemicals making it more bioavailable. Anyways, so no, so we use medical grade silicone as our base, and if you consume it orally, like if you go down on your partner sublingually, the cannabis could be absorbed underneath the tongue and get into the bloodstream and give you a psychoactive head high. As you were saying, Scott, you're absolutely right. THC is what gives you that psychoactive head high, the intoxicating effect, as they call it. And so it's kind of something to be aware of if you don't want to get high. Most people find it to be a little bit of a pleasant, a little kind of special gift or a boost
A
or
little bonus at
little
the
bonus. Yeah. But yeah, so you do have to be aware that if you do go down on your partner, and it's a silicone based lubricant, so it doesn't really have a taste to it. I mean, it's not something that's like super pleasant, but it's also not unpleasant. It's kind of just one of those things that's like if your partner's wearing lube and you go down on them. be
Yeah.
consumed, you know?
Yeah, there were Scotty. Don't you remember years ago we had some kind of crazy lube that would burn you and like intensify? Remember that so
Oh, like some product that was sent to us to talk about.
yeah,
Yeah, it was something that heats up or whatever. Yeah, I
yeah,
remember that.
yeah,
No,
something
you
like
hear about those kinds of things. They have condoms that have different topicals and things like that. And sometimes people will say that they like the sensitivity or it gets too desensitized. But the product that she's talking about, because I do have clients that have used it and I have mentioned your product, I would say at least double-digit times to people. And I've always heard positive feedback. And I think from men that head high, it does seem to be the way it's described, like similar to taking an edible or something like that.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
it's not overpowering, but at the same time, it does enhance that
I don't
experience.
think Scotty. Have you ever done an edible?
Never. Yeah.
Never. Scotty has never. Scotty is my good little Christian over there. That's why the two of you, you almost becoming a nun. Scotty could totally be, a leader at his
Well,
church. I mean, you are a leader at your
I
church.
I was going to ask that as a follow-up question. Where do you stand on the nunnery at this point?
It's so funny because I still do practice. Everyone thinks that it's so funny that it's like I've fallen. And I think part of it is what Ellen was saying. I think your sexual health and wellness, especially with your partner. I've talked to so many partners that have stayed together because of my products, because they were able to finally have a sexual experience, and that is so important. It's like the foundation for a relationship, really, because that's the thing that kind of takes you through for years and years and years. I mean, and it's biological, right? When you have an orgasm with your partner, endorphins are released, it's binding, it's a chemical, like it is actually a scientific thing that happens. So, and it's really funny because I'm very active in going into dispensaries. I do a lot of the trainings myself because I think it's really important to talk to bud tenders and get feedback and understand what people are saying or experiencing. And because these are, sexual based products, so many people have different comfort levels. So I find that when I actually show up and say, like, hey, so what have you heard? What's going on? And I had a woman that found out that I was the founder and started crying. We actually had two people cry and say, I didn't think I could have an orgasm. I thought I was broken. I thought there was something wrong with me. And for the first time ever, she's like, you literally have changed my life. This product has literally given me a new life. And one of the women was like, I'd say in her late 50s, and she had never had an orgasm before. And she's like, her eyes were open up to a whole new world, you
Yeah.
know? And then another woman was younger and she was like in her 20s and she was just like, I just thought I was climactic, like I couldn't have climaxes. And
Well,
she
and
was,
there's a lot of women that don't experience it. But I will tell you, there was something else that was really interesting. So my friend, like, she was in a really bad accident, and she found that while she was going through physical therapy, which was helping her a little bit, she was using the high, for sexual, for her sex life, but she was also easing, the pain was easing in her body from where she was doing that physical therapy. And so it was like a double bonus. I mean, like that was another big thing for her, that, while recuperating from this injury, it really helped. And I hear that all the time. I mean, look, I had a torn shoulder cuff and I had to put on this CBD cream, and it helped a little bit, but like, I think there's so many benefits to this, and especially for women who are going through menopause, because your hormones change, and maybe you're not getting, I'm sorry to say this, but like as lubed up, on your own, that you might need a little help, a little, like a little, rejuvenation down there. And I think that this could be the answer for somebody who's listening, who's maybe perimenopausal or, something like that, right?
yeah. And as you were saying about the pain relief aspect, so I can't say anything because that's technically a medical claim, and we're not allowed to make medical claims in cannabis. But I have heard people say that they used it for lower back pain, for the lube launcher, for example, for lower back pain, and they've also used it vaginally for period pain relief, and they've
Yep.
had a great experience in that way.
I was going to say that I was going to give that example about the period pain. That was one of the other reasons why she was using it a lot. And just not even for sexual reasons, just because there would be days that she couldn't get out of bed. She gets terrible, terrible cramps. And
Yeah.
boom, no longer. So, I mean, it's a really incredible product, just blown away by you, Katie.
You
Alan.
Oh,
know,
thanks.
Katie, if I could say, I think I really like the culture that we're living in 2025 because I do see a desensitization in people talking about sex. And I know for me, I'm comfortable with it because it's what I do for a living. And a lot of couples come to couples counseling specifically because of chemistry reasons or intimacy reasons, or just it's not even happening at all. And I think people forget in relationships that if you take sexuality out of it, you're just roommates.
100%.
And, so it's when people poo-poo, the topic of sex or that makes them uncomfortable, I think they forget that it's not just procreation, it's what binds us, it's what connects us.
Mhm.
And it's what makes women feel very close to their partners in many ways too. And so when they're not doing that, the shame they feel like hearing about the 50-year-old woman, I've heard that too, never had an orgasm, never. And I know to some people that's not a big deal, but it actually is a big deal. And I'm seeing the mainstreaming of all of these sexual products and the hims and hers and I just think that, for anybody who's gone through that 7-year itch and you're just living like a roommate, this is a chance to sort of take your sex life that maybe organically was different at the beginning of the relationship and then take it to a different level and just keep evolving. But it is a product that works. There doesn't seem to be any harmful side effects. And it does seem to make people more confident, which makes me really happy.
I think going doubling back to the spiritual side that we were talking about earlier, um, I'm glad that came up also because I think this is one of the big disservices that Christianity, churches of all different kinds, a disservice they do is that they make it an unapproachable topic a lot of times. I'm very happy that I'm in a church that we can talk about real things with each other, but I think it's not always like that. Because as Alan said, this is a huge part of the two becoming one. And if you don't talk about it and you think you're the only one dealing with things, and you can also get it advice and help with things. So the THC and CBD aside, just anything that generates more time where you're coming together because it's just essential in your relationship, I think is very valuable.
You can't discount physical intimacy. There's just no doubt
No.
about it. Like, and I see that all the time, that once people are living parallel lives and they're just doing their own thing. One person's watching TV, binge watching, the other one's on Instagram, it's over. And the relationship is just logistical, and they're talking about only their kids or just what the bills are and their families and their jobs. It becomes a very boring relationship. And I think the passion at the beginning of a relationship can come back. And so I think your product, when Hudson had introduced me that to the product, I was really impressed with it. And so far, everybody that I've referred it to has said amazing things about it. And I'm glad that we're having this conversation in this format because I want to take the taboo out of sex. It is very important to men and women. And I don't think kids should be able to be in a situation where they can't talk about it. And the sex they're learning about is on, Pornhub or something like that. I think we can be a lot better, whether it's in religion or whether it's in just general secular society, in making this a part of our normal life and part of our health.
So, Katie, on the business side of things, what was the biggest obstacle that you overcame in order to launch this business?
Yeah,
COVID.
coming as a bartender,
COVID.
Mhm.
COVID.
COVID?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, so with twofold. So we had some packaging issues when we first launched. So we had ordered pumps. And the thing is for me, I'm so thorough. Like every single detail is thought so much. And so I ordered airless pumps, and I did that specifically because I didn't want air to enter the product. Not that that's bad, but I just thought, whatever. And unfortunately, I don't know if it was the weight of the lubricant or whatever. It basically would cause the thing to go down. And so you'd have to pump it like 150 times before the product would dispense, which is obviously for the first 3 months. We had no issues. And then after that, we started hearing about issues. And that was like devastating because we did R&D for about a year and a half to make sure that we were launching the best product. And then when you have like a packaging issue, it's really heart-wrenching as a founder. But then you just get new packaging, and you're and you really you pivot. Now we use a tincture bottle, so we don't have
So
to use
imagine in the heat of the moment, you hear "Voof, voof, voof,
I know,
voof."
150 times. Like,
Air pump going off. Yeah.
Hold
But
on.
but but you also just came out with another product.
yes, yes,
Now,
two. So we have they're called Kinky Bites, and they're
what is that? What's that?
The gummies.
Okay. So now what are in those?
So we use 10 milligrams of THC. We use live resin, and we have horny goatweed, maca root, and long jack, which is like the trifecta of basically, again, vasodilation. So getting the blood flow going. Some people use it as a pre-workout. Some people use it as a sex gummy. Anytime that you just need to get like amped up and ready to go. Get that blood flow going, which I didn't know that bodybuilders take a fourth of a pill of Cialis or Viagra before they work out. Did you guys know this?
No.
No.
Because it's like gets the blood flow going, gets the pump going. And so I was, marketing them as sex gummies. I was talking to a buyer. He's like, "Oh, I take it as a pre-workout." I was like, "Excuse me, what?" I was like,
Crazy. Because
"That's
that maybe gets you
crazy."
all amped up and pumped. You know what? I was
Yeah.
watching for the very first time last night and I totally thought about you because I knew that you were coming on and I knew that my friend was going to be so over the moon. Like I said, because she is obsessed. Obsessed.
Oh,
Like truly, you've just like you saved her marriage, basically, and being somebody's in the spotlight as a celebrity, always like it's just changed her world. But I was watching last night, Love Island. A friend of ours
Oh
told
my
me
God.
I need to watch this show. I've never watched it. I've never been into reality television, but I got hooked on this one show called 90 Day Fiancé, obsessed with it. I've watched every episode, but I thought of you because if I feel like these people are just swapping back and forth, they need some oh hi in their life. Is what they need because there's no real bonding going on. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, I kid, but like, you need to have your product somehow placed
I
on
know.
shows.
You know what's so challenging, and Scott, this kind of goes along with what you were saying that for the challenges. So it is almost impossible for us to advertise because we are like the redheaded stepchild times two. We have a sex-based product and we have a cannabis-based product. So if we're allowed to advertise in, because it's cannabis is fine, we're not allowed to because of the sexual element to it. So that's been to be honest, that's been our biggest hurdle is the advertising and marketing because it's like it's really we can't run ads, we can't do any traditional go to market strategies because it just doesn't work for us.
Right.
Can
So
I say something? So it's interesting that you're saying that because I'm seeing ads for this thing all over social media and in other places. It's called Mood. Are you familiar with that company? MOOD. And I'm not trying to promote a competitor or anything like that, but their ads
They
are
don't do a lube.
promoting,
They
they're all
just
promoting sexual gummies, ways
they are
to
hemp.
Okay. And so it's nationwide that they say they ship to and whatever. And it comes up on my little phone games. It comes up on social media. It's interesting. I keep seeing it. But it's a company called, even on a news site, I saw it as an advertiser. So they're trying to really mainstream this, which makes me feel happy that it's a topic people can talk about. But I guess look into that because maybe there is a way to do it nationally.
Yeah, so they're using hemp, and that's exactly what we're working on. So hopefully we have a 60-day plan to launch a hemp line. So
that
that's
would be amazing.
actively, yeah. Yeah, it's really hard because I really wish they would just make it federally not illegal.
Yeah.
Because even if they made it, the states could still choose legality if they wanted to make it legal or unlegal or not legal. But the problem for us is that we can't bank. We can only do like credit unions in the state that we're active in. Every single company has to set up shop in every single state. So if I wanted to expand to New York, for example, I would have to adhere to all of New York state laws, their packaging requirements, which is probably different than our packaging requirements, their manufacturing, like everything is different. So it's almost like starting up a different business in every state. And that's very challenging. That's very cumbersome. That takes a lot of money, takes a lot of time, takes a lot of effort. So my hope would be that if we could just cross state lines, and again, not sell in states where it's illegal, but if we, somebody in wherever it was legal wanted to buy it, in Illinois wanted to buy it, we could just ship it to them. And then we could be like a real industry kind of, because right now it's like, because it's so geographically contained, it's
Yeah.
hard to expand and grow.
That it really does. I remember again, like when I had first, was turned on to this, and after my friend just wouldn't stop it, I really wanted to talk about it on my show on the radio, but I can't. I even asked, and because I had reached out to you. That's how we had met. Is I reached out to let her know about my friend who's just like loves her, loves Katie, loves this product, and can I give her a shout out on my show? And I was trying, and so to be able to have you on here today and talk with you about this. I mean, if there's someone's listening right now who's your relationship is good, but it's not great. This is what you need. I kid you not. It just will bring you and your significant other so much closer, and you'll have the most incredible, incredible sex you've ever had. For real. Whether you feel like you need it or not, it's not about needing it. It's a game changer. It really is.
Well, I'm hoping a podcast like this will just increase the discussion. I see it as less taboo. I used to be a lot more hesitant as a therapist to bring up an issue like a topic like, enhancements or sexual toys or products. And now I find that nobody even lifts an eyebrow. I think as a culture, we're starting to embrace these things and not be as shocked by them. And so I'm crossing my fingers on those gummies because I think anything that's going to bring couples together, I think a lot of times logistically they work really well as roommates and partners and co-parents. They're just missing that spark. And if this is something that can bring that spark back, or at least bring them to a place, where they love each other and they're attracted to each other again and they look forward to those physical intimacy moments. That what more can you ask for? This is such a great situation. I'm so happy to meet you.
Scotty, are you intrigued, Scotty, by this?
I
Because
am. My DJ 101 tells me to ask, how does someone get these products? And it seems like, do you have some sort of podcast or something as well?
I'm working on that too. So so there's a lot kind of in the works. You can go to our website, which is olavinia.com, and then you can go
Oh,
to
wait,
where
say it again, because it
olavinia.com.
oh live.
OH, yes, Lavinia. So OHLAVINIA.com, olavinia.com. And you can go to where to buy, and that's a pretty accurate we try to keep up with what dispensaries we're in, so we update that monthly. So you'll be able to see the closest dispensary. And then we are, like I said, working on a hemp line. So hopefully very soon you'll be pushed an ad, Alan, and you're going to be like, yes, Kinky
Yes.
Bites.
Kinky bites. That Scotty is going to be like, I'm going now. I'll be back in 5 minutes, honey.
5 minutes.
Buying
We
the
also
kinky bites.
buying the bites. We also have a sleep gummy called Goodnight Kiss, and that one's super fun because I actually went to school to be a certified cannabis educator. So my teachers helped me formulate that gummy. So I love it because it's like 20 plus years of women, really strong women that love cannabis that helped me formulate it. But it's 10 milligrams of THC. Again, we use live resin, 20 milligrams of CBD, 5 milligrams of CBN. And then we also add valerian root, which is in sleepy time tea. It's a natural sedative. So what's great about these guys is they knock you out, they keep you to sleep, and you don't wake up with that groggy feeling because the high CBD with the low CBN, it kind of they interact really well together and they don't give you that kind of weird grogginess. So if you've tried other sleep gummies and you've woken up being like, oh, a little hangover,
I've done sleep gummies and I can never, yeah, I hate that hangover-y kind of feel.
yeah.
I
Well,
love that.
hopefully I'll send you these and these, you shouldn't feel like that.
Oh,
Well, this was definitely a different flavor on the podcast than we've had, but it was interesting as well, not only the product, but just how you created something that didn't exist. You found something that you felt should be out there, or even improved on something that maybe was not as good as what your product is, and you brought it to fruition. And that's really inspiring because we've talked a lot about how changing a side hustle into your real job, or building a product, or creating a product, or starting a business. Sometimes just getting started is scary, but you've brought it all the way through, and that's really cool. So
how
congratulations.
long? So, Katie, how long did it take you? Because it really is. I mean, you did it. You did it. So, how long did it take you to
Um, to
to
what?
make
Sorry.
this happen? Yeah.
From
Um,
inception to
I
production.
would say that it was about 2 years from when I thought of it to when it was actually um, on shelves. But it wouldn't have taken 2 years had COVID not happened. So packaging typically takes like a month or two, and it took 11 months. And then just COVID kind of threw a little bit of a wrench in everything, just in terms of nobody knew, all of the things. So I think it probably would have taken a year, but also I'm pretty thorough. Like I try to think of every different situation, everything that could go wrong. I try to have a reason for why you'd want to do something, but not want to do something. And I try to like explore all options before I do launch a product.
Have you ever thought about having kids? And I'm not going to ask you for a reason.
Yes, I'm trying.
Okay, hold on. I think you might be getting pregnant because didn't you just get engaged?
Yeah.
Oh,
We have
congratulations.
to talk about this. But here's the deal. When we jumped on the call, Alan goes, wow, I look like I'm in a nursery, like some baby swaddling is about to happen here. Scotty in the pink, me in the baby blue colors, right?
Mhm.
Could you imagine after this podcast that's happening for you? I don't know, Katie. All
I
right.
love it. I love it. Your mouth to God's ears.
Right? No,
Love
like
it.
for honestly,
Yeah.
okay. So let me ask you this. If you want to talk about it, you don't have to.
Sure.
Recently engaged.
Yes.
Congratulations. Oh my
Thank you.
gosh.
Thank you.
I saw
We
the
knew
ring.
each other 2 months and he
Okay.
proposed.
How did it happen? We want to know all of that. Did you meet at a lube convention? Like, how'd you
No,
tell him that I make lube? Like, I want to know all of it.
you know what's really funny is that actually when I was single, that was a huge issue for me because uh, men would instantly think that I was very promiscuous and would treat me different, like a one night stand. They would look at me like a one night stand, not like a potential candidate for a relationship. It was
Yeah.
very funny. I actually took off all of my business stuff on all of the dating apps because I'd start to get like dick pic DMs and stuff. And I was like, no, no, no.
Because of the cannabis lube.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was very funny. I had to like vanilla myself a little bit more. I was like, no, what do you do for a living? Um, oh,
I make health products.
yeah, there you go. That's what I should have said.
Okay.
Yes.
So you met him 2 months. Okay, you got to tell the story.
So
I'm
it's so fun.
the
So I moved,
therapist here.
I was living in Hollywood. And I moved from Hollywood to Newport Beach. And I didn't know anyone, but I just knew I was supposed to be out here. I love Newport Beach. I love the vibes. It's awesome. So I literally had no friends. So I was like going to, the coffee shop and like striking up a conversation and being like, do you want to get coffee again? Like in the market for new friends. And one of my girlfriends that lived in the building in Hollywood with me, she was having surgery and she asked me if I could take her. And I was like, absolutely, of course. I was like her in case of emergency person in Hollywood. Well, little did I know she was from Newport Beach and she had an in case of emergency person here. And so she put us on a group text and was like, hey, there's this guy. He is the best guy I know. If you need anything at like 3 o'clock in the morning, he's got your back. He's amazing. And then introduced us. He unfortunately was traveling. So 3 months went by, didn't, nothing happened. I was sitting on my couch and it was like a Friday night and I had no plans. And I was like, what am I going to do? And then I heard a whisper that was like, and I was like, oh, yeah, whatever happened to that guy? And I messaged him and I'm like, hey, I'd still love to get together. And he was like, hey, I'm actually going to dinner with my godson and my brother tonight. Would you like to join? And I was like, yeah, I actually, that would be great. And he's like, would you like me to send a car for you? And I was like, oh, this guy's good. I like this. But again, it wasn't romantic. It wasn't like it was just literally friend of a friend. So he was just being a nice guy. And I said, actually, that would be lovely. And so he sent a car for me. And so during that time, I researched, I took my friend's Instagram and I looked for Eric and I found this, what appeared to be very gay man. So I thought I was meeting with somebody that was not straight. And then, and then I get there and he's like, Katie, I'm a hugger. And he like hugged me and it was just hilarious because I thought I was meeting a like gay man that I
Yeah.
was going to be like homies with. And then I ended up
Like
meeting
you
my
were playing
future husband.
detective. Yeah.
Congratulations.
So,
That's amazing.
well,
I am so excited for you on everything, the engagement, the new products, launching the hemp line, the lube launchers, the most loved lube in America, Ojai. And again, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to expand your horizons and experience something really, really incredible. I am so in awe of you, Katie. I think you are so special. And I am so glad that you joined us today on the podcast for real.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so fun.
Thanks,
Mike and Mike
Katie.
podcast. Katie Enright of Oh Hi. Again, can we just give out the website? It's
Yeah,
olavinia.com.
correct.
Find it and get
All,
some.
all
Hudson
one
High,
word.
Scotty Blaisdell, Alan Wagner, Katie Enright. Oh Hi. This is Mike and Mine podcast. Peace in the chicken grease.
See ya.
Next time.